Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
You may call your first witness.
The department calls Jalissa Taylor. All right. Miss Taylor, is it correct that y'all just scheduled a PC yesterday?
Correct.
Did both parents attend?
Yes, ma'am.
And so they were able to review the family plan of service that was proposed by the department and is currently on file, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did either of the parents have an issue with any of the services on that plan?
Yes, ma'am.
What service?
The inpatient treatment for both parents.
And now, can you explain, I believe that it's in the family plan of service why the department believes that that's important, but can you please just state that just briefly?
There have been overdose by both parents since the removal.
And to be specific, the mother has overdosed 3 separate times, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so at this time, the department is unwilling to waiver from that request of inpatient for both parents, correct?
Correct.
Did the parents indicate that they had any other issues with any services on their family plan?
No, ma'am.
Otherwise, is this child currently doing well with her aunt?
She is.
And any other issues that have been brought to your attention pertaining to the status hearing?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll pass the
Mr.
witness.
Kinslow,
Yes, as to the inpatient, is the department not willing to wait to determine if that should be on the plan until the OSAR is completed?
The father I have received a copy of the father's OSAR, and it recommended patient.
Saying the father's done an OSAR since this case is filed?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Is the mother's OSAR returned yet?
I have not received results of hers.
Okay. That's all we have, Judge.
Mr. Keithley,
I just didn't hear the answer. What did the father's OSAR recommend?
Outpatient.
Okay. All right. And do you know, all right, thank you. I passed the witness.
any further witnesses? Ms. Gongora,
No further witnesses.
Mr. Kinslow.
Yes, I'll call my client
All
Levi.
right, go ahead, Mr.
Windmiller.
Kinslow.
Mr. Windmiller, the part of the service plan that you opposed is requiring you to do inpatient. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you with the with the OSAR recommending outpatient, are you willing to do outpatient services?
Yes, sir, I am.
And so that was really your only issue with the service plan then?
Yes, sir.
Now, you also have a concern about the drug testing requirement that came on to you at the first part of the case.
Yes, sir.
And what is the reason for that issue?
Sometimes with work, it's a little hard to get off on, a set time. It's landscaping. So times vary depending on the job.
Is it accurate to say that you show up at work and that you're taken to job sites and you do not have your own vehicle or access to leave the job sites?
Yes, sir. That is true.
And your job sites often take you from early morning until past 3 o'clock or even past 5 o'clock at times.
Yes, sir.
You don't oppose drug testing. It's just it needs to be in a manner that doesn't interfere with your job. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything that you would recommend in that regard?
Nothing in specific. I mean, the thing is I can drug test even more often if there's something we could work out.
Okay. Or a location that's open on weekends.
Yes, sir.
Would you be willing to do a hair follicle perhaps more frequently than what the department normally does?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Howe,
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Keithley.
Sir, when you did your OSAR, were you self-reporting? I mean, was it them asking you questions?
They asked me questions. I told them everything. I told them about the overdose. I said, look, I hit a relapse. I overdosed. I'm not going to sit here. I told her everything.
Okay.
In my report, and that's what she recommended.
Well, you broke up a little bit. When was the overdose?
I don't even remember. I think it was about a month ago.
Okay. And what did you overdose on?
I had taken a pill, I believe, to be a Percocet, and it wasn't. And yeah, it wasn't intentional. It is what it is. Made a mistake.
And I mean, did you buy that pill off the street or?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Thank you. I passed the witness.
Ms. Gongora.
Thank you. Sir, you are concerned with having to do inpatient because you believe that it could potentially give you some issues with your job. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to keep my job. I'm kind of don't like moving around jobs. I wanted to stay with this company for as long as I could.
And sir, would you agree with me that if you overdose and die, that you would obviously lose your job at that point, correct?
Yes, that is true. However, as I stated, I mean, an overdose scares you pretty good, and you don't really want to continue doing that.
Well, aren't you the one who had to call the police when the mother, Miss Castillo, overdosed?
Yes, that's true. But in your mind, you're not thinking it's going to be you.
Okay, so you're saying that you saw Miss Castillo overdose 3 times, and in your mind, you thought it was still safe for you to go out and buy a drug off the street and use it.
I know the risk involved. Definitely knew the risk. It's just I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Kinslow.
Yes, a couple more questions. Mr. Wimmer, you work at, is it Fitzgerald Landscaping?
Yes, sir, it is.
And that's a large, very successful landscaping company, is it not?
Yes, it is.
And it's one which you'd like to maintain that relationship with.
Yes, sir, it is.
Do you believe that you are in control of your drug intake in the future?
Yes, sir. This last time, I had to witness some things that really clicked it in my head. It really clicked in my. We would have both been dead had it not been for God. So I don't, I could sit here all day and try and convince people that I'm in control of my drug intake. I know I am personally, so it is what it is.
No other questions?
Does anyone have any further questions of Mr. Wingmiller?
No, Judge.
No, Your
Any
Honor.
further witnesses, Mr. Kinslow?
No other witness.
Mr. Keithley, do you have a recommendation regarding the father's request?
Well, Your Honor, my concern is I mean, not even regarding the child. I mean, if he that's very risky behavior that could kill him. And I think that the mother has almost passed due to that type of thing. So I think that, I mean, I'm not his attorney or his guardian or his parent, but, I think that, inpatient would be really good for him. I understand the situation with his job, and I appreciate him also being honest when he did his OSAR about, his overdose last month.
What if we do this? What if he's ordered to submit to outpatient? The very first test he misses, or the very first test that he tests positive, then he will be ordered into inpatient.
I think that's fair.
The other thing about drug testing that I'm considering is this. He will test weekly at his expense on a weekend, and at least once a month, that'll be a hair test. Would you prefer that, sir, that you're not on the color, but you will test every weekend, and the department will let you know if your test is going to be UA or hair test?
That sounds all right.
Ms. Gongora, Ms. London, does that, if he knows he's going to test on, if he knows he's going to test on Saturday or Sunday, then he can use on Monday and Tuesday and be clean. But that's why I'm ordering at least once a month, he'll do a hair test at his own cost.
I think that would be fine, Judge.
Ms. London, any?
It'll be okay. It'll be okay, I guess.
All right. I always tell people I like it when they're trying to work. But sir, at some point, you may have to choose your job over your sobriety and your child. I'm going to start out right now trying to let you walk that line. But if you either fail to test, and I'm anticipating it would be every Saturday or every Sunday. Mr. Kinslow, if you said there's a place that's open on the weekend, then he'll test at his cost on the weekend.
Your Honor, I haven't located a weekend place. I'm just hoping that we can locate one. I think I've heard the quality labs may be open on weekends, but I haven't confirmed that.
Well, that's the order of the court. If it doesn't work, then he'll be on the color. And really, sir, if your caseworker knows you are trying your hardest to comply with testing when you're supposed to. They will work with you. But you would be surprised how many times people just tell me, oh, I can't test because of my job. Well, at some point, if you can't test because of your job, your child will not be returned to you. So y'all got to figure out how to make it work.
I can try and make the color code work if it makes it easier. I can definitely try and do that. I think cost would add up. If it makes everyone happy, I can just tell my job, I gotta, on the day I call, if it's pink, I gotta get off by this time.
Okay, if that's your choice, then okay, here we go then. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement and prior orders for visitation. I will make the family service plans as prepared in order of the court. I'm ordering that dad follow the OSAR recommendation and do outpatient. But sir, if you miss a drug test without a good reason, or you test positive, then you are ordered to go to inpatient. Parents, the law requires that I admonish you. I've made your family service plan an order of the court. Your progress on the family service plan will be reviewed by the court at every future hearing. If you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. The next hearing is initial permanency, September 5th, 2023. December 19th, 2023, a second permanency and final on the court's docket. And our dismissal date is for a status hearing. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. CASA is the guardian ad litem. CASA is present through Ms. Bird. You apparently have the YouTube video up. If you could pause that or stop it so that we don't get that repeat. Kevin Keithley is the attorney ad litem for JC. John McLeod is present for the father, Jesse James Madison. Mr. Howell is present for the mother, Brandy Fiesler. Is also let the record reflect that the current caregiver, Dalen Birch, is also present. Is everyone ready for the status hearing?
Yes, Judge.
You may call your first witness.
The department calls Yolanda Gomez. Now, Ms. Gomez, have you been able to go over each of the family plans of service with the parents?
No, I attempted to go to both of their homes. I did meet with Mr. Madison and I did go over some of it. He didn't want to hear about it because he didn't want to participate in any services. For Mrs. Madison, I wasn't able to meet with her when I went to her home.
Have you been in contact with the mother since getting the case?
No.
Do you know where she is?
I believe she was still at the same home. I know she was incarcerated for a little bit, but she seems to be out already. And so if she's not at that home, then no, I don't know where she is.
And you said that Mr. Madison stated that he had no interest in working any services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so is it correct that neither of the parents attended the PC or the FGC that was set up?
That's correct.
And I know you said that you haven't been able to reach out to the mother. Has she reached out to you at all, trying to get a hold of you, and you just missed a phone call or a text message?
No.
I will pass witness.
Mr. Howell, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
Just one or two, Judge. Ms. Gomez, in terms of Mr. Madison, you said that he did not, he was not going to work any services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And did he give you a reason why he didn't want to work any services?
He just said that he was tired of the department being in his life.
Okay. All right. No other questions. Thank you.
Mr. Keithley?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. Gongora?
I don't have any other witnesses, Judge, but there is a case regarding JC out of the 74th that I would ask be transferred and consolidated into this cause.
It is ordered.
Thank you.
Anything further from anyone?
Judge, I don't have any. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Keithley.
No, you go ahead.
Judge, I don't have any witnesses, but I would just inform the court that Mr. Madison, as testified to by Ms. Gomez, is unwilling to work services for the reason that he stated at the removal hearing that the removal of this child in this case was not due to anything that he had done or didn't do. And so he's stated he just doesn't feel like he should have to work services. He is, though, supportive of the placement of the child with Ms. Birch, and that's where he would like her to stay.
Mr. Keithley?
Your Honor, I don't have any evidence. I just wanted to, well, actually, I will just ask Ms. Birch a couple of questions if I can.
All right.
Thank you. Hey, I wanted to ask you, so this is Mr. Madison is your dad as well. Am I right? Is this your mother as well?
No, sir. We just
Okay.
have the same dad.
Just same dad. Okay. All right. Well, has the dad or the mom been in touch with you to have any contact with Jason?
Jesse has not. The dad has not. Brandy has contacted JC a few times, but it's only been like a handful of times in the last since I've had her, honestly.
Okay. Okay. How has that gone?
JC gets really emotional, and I constantly just have to remind Brandy that when you're speaking to JC, don't try not to bring up the case. Like it upsets JC a lot.
Okay. So you're there monitoring that when that occurs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Super. All right. And JC's doing fine with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Gungor, any questions of this witness?
What exactly is she trying to tell JC about the case?
Whenever she does talk to her, she will bring up that the original hair follicle test was contaminated. She always says that she's not doing drugs, that that's not fair that CPS took JC from her, that CPS is lying, so things of that matter. So I have to tell her, like, if you're going to bring this up, I'm just going to end the phone call. Like, she doesn't need to hear about this stuff.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Howell?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
No questions, Judge.
I've had this case, these parents in 2 counties, numerous of them. But what I do recall, isn't it correct that Mr. Madison worked services in the court-ordered services case, and his child is with him due to successful working of those services?
That's correct, Judge.
That's true.
Ms. Gomez, why would the dad have another psychological and therapy and protective parenting when presumably he just did those things in the court-ordered services case, and his child, younger than this child, is still with him?
At that time, I wasn't aware that he had already completed those. So we would just take those into account for those services that he has completed. But he does not seem to want to drug test at all either. So.
Okay, well, that's an issue. But I'm just, as far as I'm supposed to ensure that a family service plan is narrowly tailored, what were his drug tests during the court-ordered services case?
I am not sure. I
Judge,
believe
in my recollection, they were clean. At the end anyway. And he worked that case with the mother of that child is, of course,
Right.
other than this case.
Right.
Right. And Judge, as the court knows, the court-ordered services cases are worked so differently than these cases that we don't really have like a record of what drug tests were done and when. So even though I'm the one that handled that case, I honestly don't know or recall what the specific services or drug test results were, other than at the very end of the case, there was no reason to continue moving forward with a removal or services.
Okay, so why would he be ordered to drug test?
Just based on the concern. I mean, he wouldn't even do like a hair follicle or a UA just to rule that out. And that's something we ask every parent, even when there isn't a history of drug use, and he's refused to do that.
Judge, to my recollection, at the removal hearing, you ordered him to do, I believe, a hair follicle test.
Did he do that?
I do not believe so, Judge.
All right. Well, let's look at dad's services then.
And again, Judge, just for the reason that he gave for not wanting to do it was the overall reason that has already been expressed.
I understand. I know he's tired of us. I'm really kind of tired of seeing him, but I'm not trying to punish him by making him do a bunch of services that he's already completed.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's his view too.
So dad will drug test random, and he will provide a safe and stable home. Those are the 2 items on the father's family service plan. I'm making the mother's family service plan in order of the court. Ms. Witt, do you have any input?
I'm obviously not allowed to ask questions, but I would say Ms. Birch is here and she's familiar with him, and it might be, it would be kind of common sense for us to ask her if she's got any concerns about him, and we could kind of take that information into consideration.
Right. And well, and Ms. Birch indicated that your dad isn't coming around to see JC.
No, ma'am, I haven't had any contact with him about seeing or visiting her at all.
Okay. Does JC miss her father?
I mean, of course, she wants to see her dad, but I mean, she misses both of her parents.
Right.
So.
And are you comfortable with JC staying long-term with you?
Absolutely.
It sounds like probably should be the goal. If y'all can reach that goal sooner rather than later, it might behoove everyone. All right. So you also don't see your dad with the child that's currently in his possession?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement and the prior orders for visitation. I'm making the family service plan as written in order for the mother, in order of the court. The father's family service plan is that he will drug test randomly and provide a safe and stable home. I am deleting the things that he's already done in the companion case, practically a companion case. It just closed. There are no parents here to warn. Ma'am, and I appreciate your willingness to let JC talk to mom, probably aunt or dad.
Yes, ma'am.
But you are the gatekeeper of, if something becomes not good for JC, then I think you did the exact right thing and let them know you're going to terminate the call.
Yes,
if mom can't comply with your request, then I'll order that she have no contact, no calls, no nothing with this child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which what I'm hearing you say, at some point, that's not going to be in the child's best interest either. So hopefully the mother and the father will take your guidance and refrain from bringing up topics that are not in the child's best interest. Anything further from anyone? If not, our initial permanency is August 22nd, 2023. Second permanency and final is December 19th, 2023. And our dismissal date is March 4th, 2024. For a second permanency and final, it's my understanding that everyone wants to take up the second permanency. Is that correct?
That is correct, Judge.
Yes, sure.
The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Kevin Keithley is the children's attorney and guardian ad litem. John McLeod is present with the mother, Bianca Seaton, and Sam Martinez is present with the father, Dylan Retchithin. We will take up the second permanency and reset the final. You may proceed, Ms. Gongora.
The department calls Jalissa Taylor.
Ms. Seaton, I brought you into the courtroom, but your camera's turned off, and so I really can't tell if you're able to hear and see or not. If you'll please start your camera. If you'll please start your camera. Sir, are you in the same room with her? You'll unmute yourself, sir, and you can both just use your camera.
Okay.
All right. You may continue.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Taylor, has there been anything of significance that it's occurred since the filing of your court report?
Yes, ma'am. A couple of things. Since yesterday, we are now looking for placement for Liam and Luca. Also, I received the results from the parents' hair test that were positive for marijuana. Bianca's was at level 7.1 for her hair, and Dylan's was at level 13.6.
I didn't hear that number.
Dylan's hair was at a level 13.6.
Okay.
And you said that was the results of their hair follicle?
Yes, ma'am. I also received their UA results. Both were positive for marijuana. Bianca's was at level 18 and Dylan's was at level 50.
Okay. I want to go back to what you said initially, which was that you're looking for new placement for the boys. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happened with that placement breakdown?
There was a PC yesterday. I believe the caregiver just kind of got upset and doesn't want to deal with the situation anymore.
And you keep saying got upset with the situation. What can you please explain to the court exactly what the issues are and what occurred?
Yes, the parents said they had concerns with their boys being in that placement. They stated at the last visit last Thursday that the boys were dirty, their nails were dirty, their hair was greasy. They wear the same clothes all the time, and they just don't believe that their boys are safe with that caregiver.
And has the department looked into the parents' claims and independently looked into whether or not the department believes the boys are being well taken care of by Miss Newcomb?
I know when I was onto the case, the parents had a lot of concerns with that placement. There were multiple investigations on this case for that caregiver. Recently, everything has. Yesterday was my first time hearing the parents say those things about the kids being dirty, and because everything's been filed because we moved the visits to the department away from the caregiver.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think you cut out just a little bit, but you were saying that this was the first time that the parents had brought these new concerns to your.
No, it's.
Ma'am, that is inappropriate. This is a court proceeding. You may not please don't shake your head. This is a court proceeding, just like we're sitting in court. And so I have a witness on the witness stand and a lawyer that's asking the witness questions. You will not interrupt the proceeding. Your lawyer can call you as a witness if they believe that your information is evidence that the court needs to hear. Please don't interrupt again. I'm sorry. If you'll restart your answer, Ms. Taylor.
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, I was just saying that because you cut out in the middle of your last answer, but I believe you stated that this was the first time that the parents had brought up these new concerns of how the children were looking as far as being dirty or having greasy hair. Is that correct?
Yes, that is yesterday was my first time hearing those concerns. Another concern that they mentioned was she said at the most recent visit, which was covered by another worker, and this was my first time hearing this as well, that they believe that Luca looks like he's losing weight.
And have you followed up with Luca's doctors or any of the children's doctors to see if there is a decline in either their growth and development?
Yes, ma'am. I spoke to the doctor yesterday after the PC. She said there was a note on Luca's most recent, not his most recent. He went to the doctor and it's on the report. It was in March. And there was a note of growth deceleration, and that was in reference to his height. He was seen again 12 days later, and he had grew 1/4 of an inch. His weight has increased, and she said there are no concerns with his weight.
Okay, and so at least in the department's looking into the children's doctors and medical records, it doesn't show that there's a decline in his growth and development, correct?
That's correct.
And did the department make any notes of how the children are showing up to these visits and how they look as far as whether or not they are dirty or whether or not they do look unclean?
Yes, for all of last month, I covered all of the visits except for the last one, which is when they stated that they observed those things. I spoke with the worker that covered that visit, and she stated that she observed the youth when she picked them up from daycare and transported them to the office, and she didn't observe any of the things that the parents say they saw.
Okay. Now, Ms. Taylor, the department obviously still has some concerns regarding these parents' ability to take care of these children on their own. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Specifically, what is the department's concerns with the mother?
Do you want me to just list them out?
Go ahead.
Okay, mom is currently pregnant right now. She went to, I believe, at the ER recently. She said she's about 20 weeks along. So we really want her to be connected with the OBGYN to make sure she's attending regular appointments to ensure that her baby is safe. We also have concerns with the drug testing still being positive and with her being so far along in her current pregnancy. Mom needs a medication review to ensure that the medication she's receiving for her mental health through MHMR is not affecting the baby, for one, and for two, that she's going to be prescribed something that she can take as prescribed, because she did let me know there has been times she did not take her medication as prescribed due to it making her sick. Mom was arrested. She's currently on probation. She was arrested due to the probation. She had a drug test and she tested positive, and she spent a couple days in jail. She was supposed to report to her probation officer at the end of last month. She stated she was really sick and was not able to do so. She was supposed to be drug tested again that day. And according to the drug test she has completed for this case, it appeared that her drug test for them was going to be positive. When I spoke to her probation officer, I asked if they consider her levels at all, since at this time her levels are decreasing. Since they only test every 90 days, they do not consider levels. So if she is positive, that will be her second offense, and she will have to go back to jail. If there's a third offense, she will have to appear before the judge again. So we just want to make sure she's all set in that aspect. And
let me stop you briefly right there. So it sounds like you have concerns for mom being pregnant and still using marijuana, correct?
Correct.
Concerns about her mental health medication and whether or not she's using that as prescribed. And then also some issues have come up because she's testing positive. That's a violation of her probation. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there also a concern that if mom were to have to go back to jail, that it would then leave the father alone to try and maintain housing?
Correct.
Right. Do you have any other concerns specifically for the father at this time?
I want to know that at the time of removal for this case, mom was in DPAW for her mental health issues, and dad was not in a space where he can care for all three youth alone. So that's how this case started. So we just want to make sure that both parents are in a position where they can work together and co-parent and provide a safe environment for the youth. Excuse me.
And so it sounds like there's concerns of potential lack of stability with these parents.
Correct.
Is it correct that the department also just received the psychological report back for the father?
I received it the week that the court report was filed.
Okay. And there were some services that were recommended that the department is requesting be added to his family plan at this time. Is that right?
That's correct.
Would that be protective parenting, anger management, and services through MHMR?
Yes, and those are for the father. Correct.
Were there any services that needed to be added for the mother?
Not at this time.
Does the department feel that mediation in this case might be helpful before we come back for a final hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that I have not asked you that you believe is important for the court to know?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass witness.
Mr. McLeod.
Ms. Taylor, just in summary, in terms of Ms. Seaton, she has either completed or has at least started all of her services, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in terms of these concerns about the marijuana uses, she reported that she uses the marijuana to deal with certain anxiety issues, that the mental health prescriptions that she was given caused her side effects, and that she uses the marijuana for that purpose, correct?
Something of that nature, yes, sir.
And she recognizes that with discovering the pregnancy, that the marijuana use, not just in terms of this case and for her probation, but that she needs to get with her doctor to find something to address her mental health needs other than the marijuana, correct?
I've had that conversation with her.
And she seems to recognize that issue?
She sent me a screenshot of a prescription where she said she thinks that should be approved to where she should be able to use marijuana.
Okay. When did she report learning that she was pregnant?
March. I asked her twice in March, I believe it was. The first time she told me she wasn't. I seen her the following week. I asked her again and she told me that she was.
Okay. And how long did you say she is?
Yesterday, she reported she's 20 weeks. I haven't received any documentation on any doctor visits at this time. We really want her to be able to go and see a doctor regularly to make sure her unborn baby is okay.
All right, thank you. No other questions.
Mr. Martinez.
Mr. and I always mess up the last name, Richington has been going to counseling, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know that these services that are being added on are a little late, but can he do the anger management through the counseling?
I can see if they offer that. See if that.
And that, if they do offer it, that CPS won't have a problem with that.
Are you saying for him not to do anger management specifically and just address anger issues in therapy.
Basically, address the same issues that he would address in anger management in therapy.
I sent his therapist the psychological, so I guess I could touch bases to see if that's an option. But if I'm sorry.
Well, that's all I'm asking is see whether or not, I mean, so it's, you know what I'm saying? So he's not falling behind on the services because this was obviously based on the psychological. And the protective parenting, you'll make that referral. I don't know if you've already made that referral, but quite possibly he could start that next week if he gets into the courses.
Right.
And then MHMR, I don't know what the time frame is on that. Do you know whether or not there is a time frame?
No, I told him he could just go up there, ask them if they would recommend or if they recommend any medication that he should be on, as it was recommended in the psychological.
But sometimes there's a lapse to get into MHMR. It's not something that, at least that's what I'm understanding, that sometimes it's not just he's going to be able to get into it like next week. It may be a month or so down the road before he can get into MHMR. Have you experienced that same?
I haven't.
But anyway, y'all work with him as far as adding those new services.
Right. Yes, sir.
And one of the only concerns you have, and I just kind of want to, it's just whether or not he can take care of the children on his own and kind of the lack of stability. Would that be correct?
Yes, and although the levels are going down, we're excited. We'll be in a better place once he gets to negative drug tests consistently.
Okay. All right. I passed the witness.
Mr. Keithley.
So, ma'am, you talked about the medical review. Is that to make sure that any doctor who's prescribing marijuana knows that Ms. Seaton is pregnant?
Yes, and the medication review is also to make sure that the medication they're prescribing her is safe for her and the baby.
Okay.
She reported yesterday that she does have an appointment set up with MHMR to have that complete.
Okay. But she's not getting prenatal care at this time?
No, sir.
All right. All right. Thank you. I passed the witness, Your Honor.
Any further questions of this witness, Ms. Gongora?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McLeod?
I'll call Ms. Seaton, Judge.
Mr. McLeod?
Ms. Seaton, and I don't want to go into this a whole lot. Are you supportive of moving the two boys from their current?
Moving them to another foster family at this time, yes, that's okay.
Have you had concerns about that placement for a long time?
Yes, and I did address it to the office. We actually didn't have a caseworker at the time, and me and Dylan had to actually go up there to find out who our caseworker was at the time.
Okay, so these concerns have not been something that have been just recent, they've been ongoing?
No, sir. There's been many times where there's been rashes, and I thought that Jalissa said she was going to document it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's, they are going to be moved. So that would meet with you. In terms of your pregnancy, when did you find out you were pregnant?
A couple, I guess about a month and a half ago. And I was having still periods at the time.
Okay. And I guess that was where I was going. You were having what I guess would be referred to as breakthrough bleeding throughout the whole process until recently?
So what I was told from the ER that it was probably a subchronic hemorrhage, which is when the placenta moves, and that it happens sometimes. I actually had it with both of my boys, and that's what was causing the bleeding, that it was that instead. I was pretty much bleeding because to me it was irregular periods and I didn't know. Okay.
Since learning about your pregnancy, have you seen a doctor?
At the ER, I had seen the labor and delivery nurses, and they checked at the baby. They said that the baby was fine, the heart rate was okay, and I talked to them about my prescriptions that I was taking at that time, and they told me that it's safe. And they're the same doctor or the same hospital that my provider works for.
Have you made an appointment yet with your provider to check out your pregnancy and your medication?
Yes, it's just a little hard. He's very hard to get to be seen. And every time I've tried to get done earlier, I had to reschedule because I've had to do something where CPS needed me to get done, like my OSAR classes, and I couldn't go in the morning.
Do you have an appointment currently scheduled?
Yes, I do.
When is that?
That's the 10th, I believe, the 10th or 11th. I have to double check.
This month?
Yes, next week.
And is the doctor you're seeing your general, your regular family practitioner, or is this doctor someone who is an OB-GYN?
He's an OB-GYN, and he's been my doctor since all of my kids.
Okay. In terms of your marijuana use, what is your position on the use of the marijuana?
Well, I haven't used it, since I've been told that I was pregnant. And at the time of me using it, I was believed, I thought I was in the CURT system. I am in the CURT system because I can't go buy it. I bought it, my prescription at a dispensary, and I had to show all of my stuff. But since then, I have not gone to the dispensary to go renew my prescription for it. And I've stopped. And then obviously my levels have been low since.
Okay. And do you have an appointment with anyone to address your mental health medication?
MHMR on the 8th. But like I said, I actually talked to the labor and delivery nurse at Providence, and they said Wellbutrin was fine. And I've been taking it as prescribed every day. The only medications I've stopped was the one that I am allergic to, which was gabapentin for my anxiety. That was the one making me sick.
But you do have an appointment with MHMR, I believe you said on the 8th?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. No other questions. Pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Martinez.
I don't have any questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Keithley.
So, ma'am, you've said that you have not, since you found out you were pregnant, you have not been taking the marijuana?
Yes, sir. Which I honestly has I think got me, I guess, just withdrawing from it sick, which is why I had to go to the ER. I haven't been able to keep any food down.
Okay. All right. And so you're saying that you haven't even renewed that prescription?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. And when I did not hear, when do you have an appointment with an OB-GYN?
The 10th or 11th. I believe it's the 10th though. At 11. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. I pass the witness.
Ms. Gongora.
I have no questions, Judge.
All right. Anyone have any further questions of Ms. Seaton? Your next witness, Mr. McLeod.
No other witnesses, Judge.
Mr. Martinez.
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Keithley.
I don't have any witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plans. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement of Liliana with the horns. And I've just made a note that the department is looking at moving Liam and Luca. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan. The court does find that the parents are making some progress on their family service plans. I will add protective parenting and following through with MHMR to the father's family service plan. I am ordering that he will address anger management in his therapy, but if that is not an option, then anger management will be added to his family service plan. So the hope and the presumption is he'll be able to deal with that in therapy. Parents, the law requires that I admonish you if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your children, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. I'm ordering that the mother sign a release of information if she hasn't already with regard to her OB-GYN. I've set this for a final hearing. Well, let me ask y'all this. I've got it set for June 27th virtually. Our dismissal date is July 10th. Does that sound okay, or would y'all?
I think there's a lot of factors at this point. June 27th is fine at this point, Your Honor. I think it could change based on other things.
All right. All right. That is the day of the final hearing. Our dismissal date is July 10th, 2023. If there's anything further, we'll be in recess.
Judge, were you ordering us to attend mediation?
What do y'all think?
Judge, I'm a little, without even knowing where the two boys are going to be placed. I know they weren't even placed in an adopted placement previously. The other thing is, as testified to, both parents are making progress on their plan, and I'm hoping that if we if they continue to make that progress, that if they're not quite done, we could maybe work on an extension. If that isn't gonna work, then I think we might agree to go, but we don't even know where the boys are going to be right now.
All right. It seems like we'll come together on June 27th, and depending on where we are at that time, even if we started the final and recessed, let you go to mediation, or look and see if at that time an extension might be appropriate. But I'll tell you, parents, I am, and I heard mom say that she hasn't used marijuana since she found out she's pregnant. I think you would be hard pressed to find a doctor that says that that's a good idea. So I want you to go to the doctor. I want you to go regularly to your OBGYN, and I've ordered that you provide that release of information so that we can make sure that you are taking care of your unborn baby. This case is on the court's docket for a status hearing. If there's nothing, the department is present through Ms. Gongora. Charles Levy is the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. Mr. Dennis is present for the mother, Stephanie Griffith. The father of this child is unknown. Ms. Gongora, where are we on paternity registry search and CCJ?
We have both of those back, Judge, and we received no results on either.
And has the department, do you believe, made their diligent effort to try to identify, and would you like to go ahead and ask Ms. Ompad those questions today so that I can appoint a lawyer?
I would, Judge.
All right, you make your first witness.
The department calls Mary.
One more question. The report that I have that was filed 4/21 does not have a family service plan attached. It's got a list of services and orders needed. Is there a family service plan that has been filed in this cause?
Yes, Judge, it was filed the same day.
All right. And are the items that are listed in the family service plan for the mother identical to the services that are enumerated in the report?
Yes, Judge, I checked to make sure that they matched.
Thank you. Mr. Levy, I'm not sure if you're trying to raise your hand. I guess not.
Yeah. No, I am, Judge. I just wanted to make sure that Ms. Colson, the placement, is not in the lobby.
She is not.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, I did receive a copy of the family plan. It was filed and sent to me.
Okay. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Ompad, you are the current worker assigned to this case, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any discussions with the mother about who she believed the father of Ian was?
Yes, ma'am. She was adamant it was the gentleman that we spoke about that was ruled out by DNA.
And just to be clear, and so the court has some background, she was stating that she believed that it was a man named Gabriel Cervantes. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the department's review and searching to see if there was anything regarding that individual, the department in fact found a prior order, which was an adjudication of non-parentage, in which he was ruled out from DNA genetic testing.
Yes, ma'am.
Has the mother given the department any other potential names?
No, ma'am.
And so based on the information that the department has, is it correct that at this time the father of the child is truly unknown?
Yes, ma'am.
And would the department be requesting at this time for the court to appoint an attorney to attempt to locate said unknown father?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Ms. Ompad, let's talk about the status hearing that we're here for. Did you prepare a report in preparation for our hearing today?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time of its filing, was everything in that report, to your knowledge, true and correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I offer the department's court report. Ms. Ompad, I believe your report indicates that the mother attended or participated in a family group conference. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay. And so she has been able to review her family plan of service.
Yes, ma'am. She went over it with us in the meeting.
Okay. And has she been able to sign her family plan at this time?
No, ma'am. Since that meeting, I've contacted her 15 times. She won't respond.
And you're saying that she's not responding to you. Has that been an issue since you got the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is it correct that she hasn't been visiting Ian due to her lack of drug testing?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you discuss at the family group conference that the mother attended whether or not there were any issues or barriers to her being able to get to drug testing or to be able to complete any of those services?
Yes, ma'am. She stated that she lost her home and that she was basically couch surfing. And we told her to please reach out to us to let us know so we can assist. But she never responds to text or calls.
And is it possible that she no longer has a phone or no longer has service to that phone? Or how can you ensure that she's actually receiving your phone calls and text messages?
The only time she responded during that whole 3 weeks of me trying to contact her is when I said, we have a room scheduled and these are the only dates available. And that's the only time she responded.
Okay, so you'd had been reaching out and she wasn't responsive until you were able to tell her that there was a room that you had been able to reserve for the family group conference specifically.
No, for her visitation, I explained that Ian had star testing that day, and I didn't want to remove him if she was not going to be able to drug test and come to the visit. And she finally responded, but she only said, I can't make it, and that was it.
Okay, and so from the department's perspective, do you believe that she is receiving your messages? She's just choosing not to respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you obviously said that she declined that visit with her child, but have there been any issues from the child specifically that have been brought up about visitation with his mother?
At the beginning, when I asked, he said he was fearful. He brought up some incidents that occurred in the home. And so grandma was enrolling him basically in play therapy.
And is that something that she has been able to set up on her own, or does she need anything from the department?
I gave her the contact for her to call and set that up.
Is there anything else that you are wanting to request from the court at this time or wanting to make the court aware of?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Dennis.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Levy.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, two things. Can you tell me how many visits have taken place so far?
None, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought. And can you please follow up with the placement? Because I don't think therapy has been arranged, and sometimes placements are not able to get that done as fast as they might be able to do with your assistance.
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you. That's all, Judge.
Anything further from anyone? All right, the court will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the child's current placement and prior orders for visitation. I will make the family service plan for the mother an order of the court. I will appoint Sam Kinslow to identify and locate the unknown father of this child. There are no parents here to warn. The next hearing is the initial permanency, August 22nd, 2023. Second permanency and final is December 19th, 2023. And our dismissal date is March 4th, 2024. This case is set on the court's docket for an initial permanency. The department is present through Ms. Gongora. Charles Levy is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. Mr. Kinslow is present with the father, William Brandon Hawthorne II. Mr. John McLeod is present with the mother, Lindsay Hawthorne. Sam Martinez is present for the father, Brandon Davenport. And I'm confused on parentage. I show that there are two. Okay. Mr. Hawthorne is the acknowledged father of the Hawthorne child, and Mr. Davenport is the acknowledged father of the Davenport child. Okay.
Yes,
you may
Judge.
call your first witness.
The department calls Rosalind Demerson. Ms. Demerson, has anything of significance happened since the filing of your court report?
No, ma'am.
The goal for each of these children is relative conservatorship. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And as we can see, we have two different caregivers, and that's because these children are still in two different placements. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the department been able to ensure that each of the children are having visits with each other?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Okay. And how have those been going?
They, as far as I know, they've been going pretty well.
Now, I want to first talk specifically about Emily. How is she doing with being in her current placement and being away from her parents?
Emily is doing, Eliza is doing just fine. She is happy where she is. She has expressed that she does not want to talk to her mom right now. But other than that, she's doing very well.
And you stated that she has told the department that she doesn't want to have visits or talk to her mom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the mother expressed that she wants to have any contact with her daughter?
Not at the moment. She says she is fine. She's fine because Eliza doesn't want to talk to her, but she kind of understands, but she is fine with that.
And specifically, Mr. Davenport, has he been involved at all with either trying to get visits or even phone calls set up with his daughter?
No, ma'am.
Has he been responsive to the department at all?
No, ma'am.
Now let's talk about William specifically. His parents, are they together currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now that's a concern for the department due to domestic violence. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Judge, may I approach?
I don't know what you mean.
Can I have a bench conference, please?
Okay. We'll take just a second. Everyone hang on. I'm going to have a conference with the attorneys for just a second. Stay where you are and we'll be right back in just a minute. Do you have further questions, Ms. Gongora?
I did, Judge.
Go ahead.
So, Ms. Dennerson, I believe you were saying that the department has continued concerns for domestic violence, specifically because the parents are back together, and that was part of the basis for removal in this case, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there also concerns regarding the mother's mental health?
Yes, ma'am.
What are those specific concerns?
The specific concerns are just basically taking her medication and getting, I guess, diagnosed for her mental health.
You specifically said that she's not on her mental health medication?
No, ma'am. That's what she said. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the mother's reporting to you that she is not currently on her mental health medication.
Correct.
One sec. Mr. Hawthorne, you apparently have stopped your video. If you'll go ahead and start it again so that I can make sure you're able to see and hear us. Ms. Hawthorne, 1 second. Is that a message to the court? Go ahead and unmute yourself. You're on mute, ma'am. If you'll unmute yourself, then you can tell me what you're trying to show me.
His video is not working.
Okay.
Like last time.
Okay. It was on just a minute ago, though. That's what I don't understand.
They kicked him out twice since we've started.
Mr. Crosby, can you
He
see
is
it?
right here.
Yeah, I'm sitting right here.
So he's in the same room with you, ma'am?
Yes.
Then why don't y'all just appear on the same screen? That's what makes sense. That way I can see you both.
We just wanted to make sure we were all signed in.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and continue, Ms. Gongora.
Thank you. Ms. Emerson, you were stating that she's not currently on her mental health medication, and that's also a concern because it's coupled with mom's continued positive methamphetamine and marijuana drug tests. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the mother been engaging in her visitation with William?
Yes, she has.
What about the father?
On occasions when he's not working. He last week he did because he wasn't at work, but usually when he's at work, he doesn't come to the visits.
Have you talked to either of the caregivers about whether or not they believe or whether or not the parents have reached out to them asking questions about their children?
Repeat again.
Yes, sorry. Have either of the caregivers reached out to the department with any concerns regarding the interaction between the children and their parents?
No, ma'am. At the beginning, the caregiver for William, at the beginning when he was replaced with the brother and the aunt on the visitations, he would act out after the visits, but they've gotten better.
And Ms. Emerson, I know we stated that the mother's been testing positive for meth and marijuana. Has she appeared to be under the influence during any of her periods of visitation?
No, ma'am.
Has she been appropriate during those visits with William?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything specific that the department is requesting regarding adding any family plans of or adding any services to the parents' family plans?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything else that you feel the court needs to be made aware of at this time?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass witness.
Mr. McLeod?
Yeah, I've got, Mr. Emerson, some questions just in terms of the report that I was a little unclear on. You, in terms of Ms. Hawthorne attending counseling sessions, your report just says progress, and then it just has her name. Doesn't have anything there. It's my understanding that she is attending counseling sessions with Dr. Schinder. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. The psychological evaluation, have you gotten the results back yet?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay. Was that through Dr. Schinder?
Yes, it is.
Did he give you any indication when those results might be received?
It should be, if not, it might be this week because
Okay.
she just finished the psychological. So it takes a couple of weeks to get back. So yes, sir.
And just so you know, if you get anything and any recommendations come out of that report that the department would like added to Ms. Hawthorne's plan, first off, would you get me a copy of the report and then let me know if there's anything the department wants added to the plan? We can reach an agreement regarding that and get her started on those services if there's anything to be added.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now in terms of well, let me ask you, I'm gonna go back to the report still. The drug test results, the only methamphetamine result that I saw is, and I'm assuming that's with the March 28 test result?
Yes, sir.
And is that a UA or
It was a UA, and okay, so she had to, it's usually UA, and then when it's a hair follicle, she doesn't participate. She either walks out or she tells them no, she's not giving her hair follicle.
Okay, so that test, the methamphetamine positive test was a UA.
Yes.
And that is the only time that she's tested positive for methamphetamines throughout the case.
Yes.
Now, there's a gap in there on your report in terms of the drug testing from February 7 through the end of March. Ms. Hawthorne was in a mental health facility during that time, correct?
She was in a mental health facility, yes, sir.
Okay, so it wasn't that she wasn't going for testing. She was actually hospitalized during that time.
She was hospitalized and she was released, so she had time to go test. She did not test because she was in the Bell County area. And then she claimed she wasn't coming back to the McLennan County area. So I was going to get her set up with services in Bell County. But at that point, she was all over the place. She didn't know where she was going to stay. She didn't have a place to stay. She didn't want to stay with William. She was just all over the place. So at that point, no, she did not test.
Well, I'm just trying to get clarification, make sure I understand, and I apologize if it's on me. During the missed tests that are listed in your report, were any of those tests missed because she was hospitalized on that particular test?
There may be some, yes.
Okay. Do you know when she got out of the hospital?
No, sir, I don't, because she didn't contact me as to when she actually got out. Because when I talked to her, visit her at the Canyon Creek, she told me she will be going to the domestic violence center at that point when she got released.
Okay.
1 second, Ms. Hawthorne, you're on mute, so we can't hear what you're saying, but it's evident that you are trying to have some kind of a conversation or put in your 2 cents on Ms. Dimerson. This is not a time for you to be mouthing words. I've got you on mute because we're in the middle of a legal proceeding, just like court. So please refrain from, go ahead.
Ms. Dimerson, with regards to Eliza, the court at the removal hearing ordered that Ms. Hawthorne would have no contact with Eliza unless Eliza requested it or or Eliza's therapist recommended it. Is Eliza in therapy?
Yes, she is.
And have you had any discussions with the therapist regarding when contact with Ms. Hawthorne, even if that was in a therapeutic session with the therapist and Eliza and Ms. Hawthorne, might start?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Is that something that the department could check on to see if contact could start in that manner in a therapeutic setting?
Yes, sir, I could check on it.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Nimerson, on your report, I want to check about 3 matters to correct. You report that you haven't received pay stubs, but you have since the report. I've sent you pay
Yes,
stubs.
sir. I'll receive those. Yes, sir.
So I just want to get that correction to the report. Also, in the report, you say that he has not completed a psychological, but actually you've sent me the psychological.
He has completed the psychological. It was way back, I think in January. That was before I have the case. Yes, sir.
Okay, so the report is incorrect saying he hasn't done it. He has in fact
Yes,
done
he
it.
has. He has. In fact, I got the report.
And there's some comments about therapy and through my conversations with you that y'all are working on getting that set up. Is that correct?
The therapy?
Yes.
Yes. That's with Dr. Schinder.
Okay. That's in process.
Yes, sir. Once they, yes, he had, yes.
Okay. Also at the report says that the goal, the primary plan, maybe I should say, is relative conservatorship, but my handwritten notes from the permanency conference says it's reunification. Were my notes wrong or is the report wrong?
It has been changed. It was
okay.
changed. Yes, sir.
At the time of the conference, it was reunification. You changed it since then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was not made aware of that until your report. Okay, thank you. My client's child is now with his brother. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you checked with his brother as far as was his brother willing to supervise visits?
I've checked with both of them as far as supervised visits with Mr. Hawthorne. I haven't checked with the supervised visits with the parents or anything. No, sir, I have not.
Okay. I guess I didn't understand your answer. Do you know?
Because there was okay. As far as I know, there's a set time for the parent to come visit the kids. That's 12:30 to 2:30. He's at work. At the time they said it, he said that he was not working. He started back working, but the time did not change. I contacted his supervisor because I asked him for his supervisor's number, and that was at the time that he was not working. He wasn't able to go back to work until the doctor released him, so he was still under doctor's care.
Okay.
Contacted his job to see if it was possible that he would be able to leave work to come to visits and do drug testing.
Okay.
Through the job, they said it would be okay.
You're going beyond my question, and I don't mind the information you're supplying. Don't get me wrong. My question to you is: have you checked with the caregiver, the brother?
And I said, no, sir. I have not.
Okay.
All right,
That was my
next question.
Okay. Are you willing to check with the brother if he's willing to supervise?
Yes, sir.
And if so, is the department willing to consider that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in your report, my client has been compliant with the drug testing.
Yes, he has.
Okay. But he has
Ms.
expressed.
Demerson, one second. Y'all are killing me. Ms. Demerson, please wait till he finishes his question before you start answering, and I'll make sure that he lets you finish your answer before he starts asking another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And you've somewhat already answered. Mr. Hawthorne has expressed a concern about his ability to drug test during his work hours.
Yes, sir.
No other questions.
Mr. Martinez.
No question, Sean.
Mr. Levy.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, would you think it would not be appropriate for mom and dad to visit the child together if it was being supervised by a family member, given past history?
You were going in and out. Mr. Levy, you said together, the parents together, supervised visits?
Yes.
No,
I'm
sir,
asking if you think that would be appropriate given past history.
No, sir, not
That's all.
together.
Yeah, I've already ordered that the parents will not visit together.
Thank you.
Your next witness, Ms. Gongora.
All right, thank you.
No further witnesses.
Judge, may I ask Ms. Demerson just one other question, please?
Sure.
Ms. Demerson, has the department obtained copies of Ms. Hawthorne's medical records from the mental health hospital?
No, sir.
Is the department wanting to do that?
I haven't talked to my supervisor about it, but we can call Canyon Creek and ask for those records.
And do you have a release already signed by Ms. Hawthorne?
No, sir. I can get the release signed and ask. Yes, sir.
Okay, if you have any trouble getting that release from Ms. Hawthorne, please let me know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Anyone have any further of Ms. Demerson? Your next witness, Ms. Gongora.
I have no further witnesses.
Mr. McLeod.
Yes, the judge, I'd call the mom, Ms. Hawthorne, please.
You go ahead, Mr. McLeod.
Ms. Hawthorne, you were in a mental health hospital for a period of time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What was the name of that hospital?
Canyon Creek.
And is that in the Temple area?
Yes.
Do you recall when you went into the hospital?
I have a brain injury. I can't remember things very easily, so dates are not as easily achievable to remember for me, I guess.
Do you have any estimate of the time period you were in the hospital?
February, at the end of February and the beginning of March, I believe.
Okay. Were just in terms of the total time period, do you have any estimate of the number of weeks that you were hospitalized?
Yeah, I think it was right under a month.
Okay. Now, while you were in the mental hospital, did they adjust or place you on certain medications or take you off medications?
Yes, I was on medications while I was in the hospital and while I was after outpatient care.
Okay. And are you taking any type of mental health medication now?
No, my doctor does not want me to take any kind of mental health medications
When
because
you
I've
say
had
your-
adverse effects to every psychotropic drug that they've tried.
When you say your doctor, who is that doctor?
He's a family practice doctor in Waco. He's been my doctor for a while. He worked with MHMR when I was under their care.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought your question was, who is your doctor? And I didn't hear
can't
it.
remember the name.
Okay.
But you
I have
believe,
TBI, so sorry, it's hard to remember things sometimes.
but you say he is a doctor at the Family Practice Center here in Waco?
Dr. Quarterwig, yes.
Or I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Dr. Quarterwig.
And he took you off the meds?
MHMR took me off meds. We've tried a couple that are new that have come out since then, but nothing has worked. Everything I've either tried to kill myself or hurt someone else. So,
And I'm really trying to focus after you were released from hospitalization at Canyon Creek. As I understood you, your doctor took you off. Is that the doctor at Family Practice that took you off those?
I hadn't seen a doctor, but when I went back Friday, he said that he doesn't want to continue any more medications. I was on some for anxiety and other things while I was in the mental hospital, and then when I was outpatient at the mental hospital.
So you said when you went back, so did you go back for follow-up with the doctor?
With Dr. Quarterwig Friday. He said he doesn't want to prescribe anything that's mood stabilizer or psychotropic because of my history.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that Dr. Corwick, he's with whom?
Quarterwig, he's with Family Practice at the Martin Luther King Clinic.
Okay. Are there any of your services that you've not at least started, Ms. Hawthorne?
No.
Pass the witness.
Mr. Kinslow,
No questions.
Mr. Martinez,
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Levy.
Yes, ma'am. I just have one or two. I'm sorry, Judge. I need about a 3-minute recess. I'll explain in a moment.
All right. We'll take about a 3-minute break.
My wife is literally having her first radiation session, and she's not doing well with the prep, and so I apologize. Okay, I apologize. The scheduling for my wife. This is her first radiation session, and she's quite upset. So I'll do the best I can to listen in. Ma'am, why are you back with Mr. Hawthorne, given the history that y'all have had in terms of domestic violence, the need to go to shelters and such?
Because we haven't had a huge domestic violence history. I've had a history with PTSD and my mental health symptoms. And I was recently raped right before all this happened. And so it put me in a place to where I was able to comprehend my reactions as well because of PTSD.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any further questions of Ms. Hawthorne?
Judge, I just have one question.
All right.
Ms. Hawthorne, when was the last time that you used methamphetamines?
Probably like 1990 something.
So you don't have an explanation
before I ever had kids. Yes, I do have an explanation. The medication that I was on from the mental health hospital, I called them, and one of the medications on the list, which I provided a copy to the CPS caseworker and my lawyer, test positive for that.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
All right, your next witness. Mr. McLeod,
I'm sorry, Judge, I don't have any other witnesses.
Mr. Kinslow,
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. I'd like to call Mr. Hawthorne. Mr. Hawthorne, with your child, with your brother, if your brother is willing, would you like to be able to visit your child supervised by your brother?
Yes.
And if that was granted, would you and your brother comply with whatever restrictions the court had? For example, at this current time, that you not visit at the same time as mother?
Yes, but I still kind of disagree with that, but yes.
Understand you would disagree, but you will comply with whatever rules the court puts.
Yes.
Are you asking the court to consider changing that restriction?
Yes.
And for what reason?
Because of the thing of they're talking about with the domestic violence, and like she just brought up earlier, all that stuff is a stem from a reaction, and it's not a history of domestic violence. So I'm still trying to figure out where they got that from.
Okay. So it's your position that there is no domestic violence threat or concern between you and Ms. Hawthorne?
No.
On the drug testing, you have been compliant, but you're concerned about the testing coming up at a time at work. Is that correct?
Yes.
What are your hours at work?
Like right now, like I said, it's fluctuating, but I would say usually 6 to 6.
Is that Monday through Friday?
Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday. Oh. But you're on random testing, which means there's not a color code that you have to call.
has it been a problem so far, Mr. Kinslow?
Mr. Hawthorne is concerned that it will be a problem. It hasn't apparently up to this point, but
it has been a problem to this point too.
Can y'all please try to work that out?
Because like I said,
One second, Mr. Hawthorne, I'm asking the attorneys to try to see if they can work that out. It's 11:15. I have not said one thing all morning. We have had cases go on and on and on. And if it's nothing that it's been a problem yet, and it's nothing you've tried to work out, please don't anticipate and ask. I've still got cases on the 10 o'clock docket. I've got cases on the 11 o'clock docket. I will take those issues up if it's an issue, but I haven't heard anything that Ms. Demerson's not willing to work with Mr. Hawthorne. Y'all try to work something out, please.
And with that, that does cover my questions.
Mr. Martinez?
Questions, Your Honor?
Mr. Levy, any questions for Mr. Hawthorne?
No, Your Honor.
Your next witness, Mr. Kinslow?
No additional witness.
Mr. Martinez?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Mr. Levy?
No witnesses, Judge, unless my client Eliza wants to say something or either placement.
All right. Okay. Liza's saying no. All right. Either Miss Green or Miss Aguirre, do either y'all are placements? Y'all have a right to be heard. Is there anything that you would like to say at this time?
Yes. So on the discussion where they were talking about whether my husband and I wouldn't mind having supervised visits with dad and mom, we have talked about that, and my husband and I, we don't have a problem with his dad coming to our home for supervised visits. On the other hand, with mom, we prefer that she not come to our home.
Okay, thank you for that. Miss Aguirre?
We don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. All right. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plans. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. The court finds that Mr. and Ms. Hawthorne are making some progress on their family service plans, but Mr. Davenport is not. Parents, the law requires that I admonish you if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child or children, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. I am giving discretion to the department and Mr. Levy to look at making appropriate adjustments to the visitation, whether that includes allowing the Greens to supervise Mr. Hawthorne. I hear her saying she's not in a position to want to supervise the mother. I'm leaving that to the discretion. And again, if y'all have an issue with drug testing and work schedules, please try to work it out. Oftentimes, where there's a will, there's a way, and we don't need to spend 30 minutes of court time when it's something y'all should be able to work out. Ms. Aguirre, you and Ms. Green, do you both know you have a right to become a licensed foster care provider and participate in the PCA program?
Yes, and I'm signed up for the licensing, but the place that I was signed up with, they recently went out of business, and so they've switched me over to a new one, and we haven't been contacted yet, so we're just waiting.
Thank you. Ms. Green?
Yes, we are aware, and we are in the process of getting signed up for foster care.
Perfect, thank you. All right. The next hearing in this matter will be a second permanency and final, August 22nd, 2023. And our dismissal date is November 6th, 2023. If there's nothing further, we'll go to the 10:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
We'll take up Caleb Walneck. Mr. Crosby, if you could please get the folks out of the lobby, out of the courtroom. This case is on the court's docket for a second permanency. We are already in an extension. We have a final hearing set for June 27th. Today, the department is present through Ms. West. Nancy Harrison is the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. Sam Kinslow is present with the mother, Sabra Harris. Mr. Howell is present for the father, Brandon Wall. Ms. Harris, Mr. Wall is not with you, is he?
Absolutely not.
All right, you may call your first witness.
The department calls Emily Tabor. Ms. Tabor, you note in your report that Caleb was moved to foster care. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
And how is Caleb doing in his current placement?
So Caleb's doing really great in his placement. He's attending daycare and he's getting to participate in the foster family's family activities. He is struggling a little bit right now. We're having some sinus issues with his ear. So we are possibly looking at having tubes put in his ears, and he's also battling off hand, foot, and mouth. But overall, he's doing really great in this placement.
Does the department have any concerns about the care that this placement is providing Caleb?
No, ma'am.
And am I correct in that this time the department's goal is still reunification with the mother, Ms. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
What sort of visits have Caleb and his mother, Ms. Harris, had recently?
So here recently, they have been doing unsupervised visits every 2 weeks. The last 2 visits from this past month have been unsupervised, and they've gone very well.
Have there been any concerns reported between the contact between Caleb and his mom?
No, ma'am.
And Ms. Tabor, we're working towards reunifying Caleb with Ms. Harris, correct?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And is the outstanding piece a hair follicle from the mother?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? It cut out.
Is an outstanding piece on reunification a hair follicle from the mother?
Yes, ma'am, and we did receive back the results this morning from that hair follicle.
Okay, and what were the results?
From April 27th, the hair follicle was negative.
Is there anything else that the mother needs to do in order for the department to reunify Caleb with Ms. Harris?
No, ma'am. We're just asking for Ms. Harris to have 2 weekend overnight visits with Caleb so we can move forward.
And has that already been coordinated with the current placement?
Yes, ma'am, for this weekend especially, and then we will work with them on the following weekend.
Is there anything that Ms. Harris needs to do to alleviate any concerns the department has at this point?
No, ma'am, just to continue participating in her NA meetings and to continue checking in with therapy and remaining consistent on her medications.
And is it important for Ms. Harris not to have or engage in any sort of relationship at this time with Mr. Wall?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, because Ms. Harris has made a lot of progress while Mr. Wall has not made progress. Is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any updates on any progress Mr. Wall has made since the court report's been filed?
No, other than I believe I indicated in the report that Brandon took a drug test on March 20th and it came back positive. We did speak with Mr. Wall on April 4th of this past month, and he did indicate that he didn't have stable living right now. He was struggling. He had shared that he had recently gotten fired from his job and that he did relapse. So other than that, though, we have not heard any further from Mr. Wall. I have tried to contact him on his cell phone through phone calls and text messages. And I've also emailed him and I have not received anything back.
And since Caleb has been moved to this new placement, to your knowledge, has Mr. Wall had any contact with him?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of at this time?
No, ma'am, not right now.
I'll pass the witness.
Any questions, Mr. Kinslow?
Thank you. Ms. Tabor, you've been keeping me updated and I appreciate that. Is it accurate to say that the department actually doesn't have any safety concerns with Saber Harris at this point?
At this point, no, sir, as long as she continues on this route of not engaging with Brandon.
And after a couple of weekend unsupervised, we think we might be going towards a monitored return?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Howell, any questions of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Harrison, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses, Ms. West?
No further witnesses.
Mr. Kinslow?
I won't call her as a witness, but I would proffer that my client is very appreciative of Emily's Tabor working with her and what the department's been doing, and she's looking forward to progressing.
Thank you. Any witnesses, Mr. Howell?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Ms. Harrison?
No, Your Honor.
The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family service plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. I will approve the current placement. I am ordering that, Ms. Harris, I know that you won't, but just so in case Mr. Wall contacts you, you can say the judge ordered. You are to allow him to have no access to this child during your periods of visitation. No phone calls, don't send him pictures. Just this visit is about you and this child, not Mr. Wall. If he contacts you and tries to have access, just let him know the court said no, and I'm not going to screw this up. All right. The court finds that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. The court finds that the mother is making progress on her family service plan. Mr. Wall is not. Ma'am, the law does require that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. We're set for a final hearing on June 27th, 2023, and our dismissal date at this time is in the interest of July 15th, 2023. This case is set on the court's docket for a second permanency and final. The department is present through Ms. West. CASA is the guardian ad litem for the child. CASA is present through Ms. Johnson and Ms. Goldsmith. Amanda Milam is the attorney ad litem for the child. Sam Kinslow is present for the father, Joseph Lanzetta, and Maria Pena is present with the mother, Analia Ryder. Miss Reddick, Miss Ryder, if y'all can please start your cameras so that I will know if you're actually able to attend this hearing and able to see and hear.
Your Honor, it would be the department. Oh, sorry, go ahead. It'd be the department's request to commence the final and recess for a later setting.
Ms. Pena?
I understand that could just be a short start, Judge, but I would ask that we just take up the permanency because I need to get witnesses and exhibits and everything that we would normally do for a final ready to go. And I haven't done any of that stuff yet. And I haven't received that from the department either.
Then why don't we have a very short permanency and admit the report and then just reset for the final?
I would be agreeable to that.
The dismissal's not till mid-July or July 1st, so we have plenty of time for a reset.
Well, and if we're pretty close, I don't mind setting it sooner, but I hate to start and recess, and we might, if there's no reason, we've got plenty of time. Let's just have a permanency hearing and then I'll reset the final. But it can be very short since there's a pretty good report with a lot of information.
The department will then call Andrea Lewis. Ms. Lewis, do you have any updates on the child since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am.
Regarding the mother, do you have any updates on her progress on her family plan of service since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am.
And ma'am, has the department requested for the mother to submit to a drug test since the court report was filed?
Yes, the mother knows she's on color code and she's to call the color code hotline daily for the color to come up.
Do you know if the mother has submitted to a drug test recently?
The last test she submitted was March the 3rd, and that was not the color code day.
Okay. Do you have the drug test results for that test?
I had them pulled out. I do. For the drug testing, it was negative. For the alcohol, it was positive.
Has the mother provided an explanation for why she's not drug testing pursuant to the color code?
She hasn't. Only thing that I know she said was at times she doesn't have transportation, but it appears she has transportation, I guess, to get to the places she wants to get to.
Ms. Lewis, is it fair to say that there's been some difficulties maintaining communication with Ms. Ryder?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Ms. Ryder's inconsistency with drug testing and maintaining communication with the department, is that a concern?
It is.
And is it the department's understanding that Ms. Reddick and Ms. Ryder have been working together to make sure all of Kate Ann's needs are met?
Yes, ma'am.
is it your understanding that Kate-Ann does not spend a majority of her time with Miss Ryder?
Correct.
Where is she spending?
I've read the report. I thought we were going to do a really quick permanency and set it for final.
Yes, Judge, I'll move on.
Are you asking for anything to change from what's been going on?
This time, no, Your Honor.
Okay.
Miss Lewis, do you have any other updates at this time?
No, ma'am.
Have you had any sort of recent contact with Mr. Lanzetta?
I have spoke with him on the phone maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Any updates on him since the court report was filed?
No, ma'am.
Is there anything else you feel the court needs to be made aware of?
No, everything's in the report. Nothing's changed.
I'll pass the witness.
Any questions, Ms. Pena?
Just two brief questions. Ma'am, did my client take a hair follicle test in February?
She did take a hair follicle test in February.
Okay. And you stated that it is your understanding that the child is spending the majority of the time with Miss Reddick. Where's that understanding coming from?
It's coming from Miss Reddick, from Caden. Every time I have done a monitoring return visit, of course, it started off weekly. Those visits were conducted with the grandma because I could never get in contact with mom, or she simply just wasn't there. When we do monitor return, of course, we're supposed to visit with the child and the parent that the monitor return is with, and that has not been happening since the monitor return was ordered in January.
Okay, so your answer to my question is that you're getting that information from Miss Reddick and the child?
Correct.
Okay, just want to get you on the record for that. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Kinslow?
Just one question. Is it still true that this case is not, the court, strike that, the department is not requesting termination of parental rights for Mr. Lanzetta?
That's correct. We're not asking for termination.
No other questions?
Ms. Milam?
No questions, Your Honor.
Anything further of this witness, Ms. West?
No, Your Honor.
Your next witness?
I have no further witnesses.
Ms. Pena, any witnesses today?
I'm not going to call any witnesses today.
Mr. Kinslow?
No witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Milam?
No witnesses. Can I ask one follow-up question? I apologize.
Of course.
So I'm not seeing in the report that there was a hair test in February. What was the date for that?
If you give me 1 second.
I have February 10th as her receipt on that date. If that helps you at all. I don't see that in the report though. So that's why I was asking about it.
Okay.
And I'm also curious about the results of that.
Yes, ma'am. I have it pulled up. So the hair test, it came back positive for amphetamines, and the hair test was submitted on 2/10/2023.
Okay, thank you.
And is that something that there was a prescription for?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, Your Honor. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. All right. All right, Ms. Goldsmith, Ms. Johnson, is there anything at the permanency hearing that y'all want to speak on?
I don't have anything other than what's in our court report.
Okay, thank you. All right. The court has reviewed the progress of the parents on the family code plan. I will continue the department as the temporary managing conservator. The court finds that the department is making reasonable efforts to reunify and also to make and finalize an alternate plan. The court approves of the department's plan at this time. The court finds that the mother is making progress and the father is not making progress on the family service plans. Ma'am, the law requires that I admonish all parents, if you are unable or unwilling to provide a safe environment for your child, your parental rights could be subject to restriction or termination. Our dismissal date is July 1st. I kind of gather that Ms. How far out in advance are y'all wanting a final hearing? Would y'all like to go to mediation?
Your Honor, I would think we need at least informal mediation. I don't know that it needs to be real formal.
I agree with Mr. Kinslow. I think.
Go ahead.
I think we can try informal mediation, but I don't think we need formal mediation, Judge.
All right. Next question. Do we want to have the final hearing set in person or virtual?
I would recommend in person at this point.
I would as well.
All right. And then are y'all wanting to do it like June?
Yes.
What if I set this at 9:30 on the morning of June 8th?
I think that's fine, Judge.
That works for me, Your Honor.
All right. 9:30, June 8th.
Can we get a deadline or some sort of guidance from the court as far as turning over witness lists and exhibits? Can we maybe have like a 2 weeks before that date or something along those lines?
May 25th.
Okay.
And I'm hearing everyone say this is not a termination case, so we do not need Carly. I might plan on having her anyway if it's a contested final. So that's going to be my plan. All right. If there's nothing further, we'll be in recess.